Hi guys, welcome back to the Cyrus Fiene team channel. Today I'm going to be walking you through all of the different steps that go into how to buy a home. I know personally no one teaches you how to buy a home. This is not something that we take a class on in high school or college. It's not really something that I had a ton of insight on before I got into real estate. So let's take the time and really dive into all of the processes and steps today. So we are all about education, and when we sit down with our clients, we like to break up the home buying process into 3 separate phases. So the first phase, we kind of consider the preparation phase. This can last anywhere for a few days to a couple of weeks, and this is really just getting your financials in place and getting prepared to actually go out and look at homes. Phase number 2 is when you actually get to go out and you start the home shopping process. This phase can last anywhere from 1 day to a couple of months. And yes, when I say 1 day, I mean 1 day. We've had clients that have gone out and found their perfect home on their first tour with us. Can also take a couple of months depending on what you're looking for and how much inventory is on the market at that time. Phase number 3 is the closing process, also known as the escrow process. And this is typically about 30 days long. It can sometimes go a little faster, sometimes a little longer depending on the circumstances. Let's go back to that first phase and break it down a little bit more with what those steps are. Step number 1 in this process is you want to pick your realtor. It's really important that you're picking someone who you trust and you have good communication skills with, and you understand how they explain things to you. This is a huge process, and this is a big step in people's lives. So it's really important you're picking someone who you connect with and who you trust to guide you through this whole process. Step number 2 is you want to chat with a lender and get pre-approved. It is vital that you get pre-approved before you start going out and looking at homes, because this will give you a baseline of what price range you should be looking at. You might be able to afford a little bit more than you originally expecting, or you might want to reel it back in so your monthly payments are more affordable. Those online calculators are a handy tool, but they're not the most accurate when it comes to determining what your monthly payment is. There's not a person behind that who's analyzing your debt to income, your credit score, and other factors that make up your monthly payment. Many of our clients choose to meet with a lender up to a year out before they even start the home search. And that's because lenders can kind of act like a coach for your financials. They can tell you what's gonna actually matter when it comes to if you need to pay off certain debts, work on your credit score, or anything else that's going to put you in a better financial position. There's also a common misconception that pre-approvals are only good for X amount of time, like 3 months, and that's just simply not true. It really depends on your situation in particular, but a lot of the times if you are staying in the same job, you haven't done any crazy financial purchases like buy a brand new car or anything like that, the lender can just go in and update your profile and keep that pre-approval up to date. They'll just need to revalidate everything, look at your credit score again, and then they'll reissue that pre-approval letter. The last step in this home preparation process is you'll want to evaluate and really deep dive what's important to you in a home. Something that we ask all of our clients is, how is this home going to fit into your needs 5 to 10 years from now? Do you need room to grow in this home, or are you planning on holding on to this home as a potential investment and renting it out when it comes time to buy your next home? All things to consider before starting your home search. Let's move on to phase 2, which is my favorite phase. This is the home shopping phase. And starting us off with step 1 is getting out and touring all the different homes on the market. And like I said, this can take anywhere from 1 day to a couple of months. And it really just depends on what you're looking for and how much inventory is on the market at the time that you're looking. There's a real possibility that you can find your dream home on the first day out touring. If you don't though, don't be discouraged. There might just not be anything that you love on the market at that time, but something will come up soon. So now let's talk about, what do you do once you actually find that home that you love? Step number 2 is we perform a comparative market analysis for this home to determine where we think you should offer at. This comparative market analysis looks at other homes in the area, and it takes their differences into account when we're looking at the home you want to offer on. We'll break everything down for you when that time actually comes, but this will help to give us a guide on where we should be offering. Step number 3 is to actually make the offer at the home. We're not going to dive into the steps of that too much today. This is something that when you make an offer with us, we walk you through every single process and make sure that you understand everything before we move forward. But everyone's circumstance is a little bit different, so I don't want to dive into it too much here. We can make a separate video about that if that's something you guys have questions about. The terms of your offer will depend on how competitive the market is at that time. So something to be prepared for is we might need to negotiate further after our initial offer. Once you and the seller agree upon all the terms, we get mutual acceptance, which leads us into phase number 3. So phase number 3 is the closing process. You might also hear this referred to as pending. You can hear this referred to as in escrow or the escrow process. Ultimately, it all means the same thing. We're just trying to get to the finish line and get closed on the home. The first step of this process is delivering your earnest money. Earnest money is the good faith money that you put on the table to show the seller that you're serious about this home. It is your skin in the game that shows that you're not just gonna walk away and not lose anything. This is typically 3 to 5% of the purchase price of the home, but do know that escrow holds on to this, and this all gets applied towards your down payment and closing costs on closing day. This is typically due 2 to 3 days after your offer is accepted. It all just depends on how it was written in your contract. After you finish getting your earnest money delivered, the next phone call you should be making is to your lender. It is vital that you start this process and start getting the ball rolling, and they'll help determine things like when it's time to lock your interest rates and just walk you through any other processes and steps of your loan. Some homework that your lender is going to give you is to obtain homeowner's insurance. It's really important to note that homeowner's insurance is necessary if you are obtaining a home loan. Most of our clients opt to bundle their homeowner's insurance with their current car insurance provider. If you feel like you need a second opinion, reach out to us and we can connect you with a couple of different insurance agents who can run some different quotes for you. So step 4 of phase 3 is to complete all of your inspections and all of your contingencies. And remember, this is going to be different for every single buyer, and it really just depends on how your contract was written. We are going to hold your hand through every step of this process and make sure that we are fulfilling these contingencies by their deadline. The next step of the process is the appraisal. The lender orders an appraisal where an appraiser comes out to do an on-site inspection, and they're trying to support the purchase price of the home. They will do their own comparative market analysis and look at fixtures and finishes of the home. We'll dive a little bit deeper into appraisals on another day. Keep an eye out for a future video. One of the last steps in this process is your final walkthrough. This typically happens within 5 days of closing, and this is your last opportunity to get in the home before closing day. The main purpose of this is to just go through the home one more time and be sure that it's been maintained through the closing process, but this is also a really good time to take any last minute measurements, any pictures that you need for ordering furniture and things like that. All right, we're almost to the finish line. Once all of your documents from the lender are delivered to escrow, the final signing can be scheduled. And this is where you are actually going through and signing all of the paperwork to deliver the home into your name. To move on to the very final steps of closing, you need to sign your closing disclosure. This is a document that the lender sends over that outlines all of the numbers associated with your loan. It is vital that you sign this because it sets off a 3-day timeline that has to elapse before you are allowed to sign your final paperwork. Once that 3-day timeline has elapsed and the lender gets all of the loan documents over to escrow, you can be scheduled for your final signing. Your final signing has to be an in-person signature. You can either go into the escrow office to sign or they can send a notary out to you, but it does have to be in person. Once your signing is done, you can deliver your final funds. You can either choose to wire the funds or you can do a cashier's check. With a cashier's check though, you need to have that delivered 1 business day before closing, just so it has time to process. Once you complete the final signing and you wire the funds, that is the last thing that we need from you. From there, everything is turned over to escrow and the lender to finish up the process. That brings us to closing day. Let's walk through what happens on closing day. First thing is that the lender validates your documents and they fund your loan. From there, they send those funds, they wire them over to escrow. From there, escrow is given the clear to close and they send the deed over to the county to record under your name. Now we wait for the county to actually record and we wait for those recording numbers. Once we have those back, we are officially closed. This typically happens somewhere in the afternoon, and so we ask that you leave your evening free and clear so that we can deliver your keys to you. I would say a good time to plan on getting your keys is around 5 or 6 o'clock. Now it is champagne poppin' time and you are officially a homeowner. Congratulations. Thanks for joining us today in our Lake Union office. I want to know, what is one thing that you learned from this video that you found helpful? And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because we're going to have a lot of really awesome videos diving deeper into this process in the future. I'm Tarice, and thanks for joining.